And here we go.
I still need to subscribe.
I need to put up the... that's okay. Alright, so we've been live for about 20 seconds. I'm going to let the rest of the commercial run.
It's only for non-subscribers.
Yeah. Ooh, yeah, I forgot. Subscribers cut straight to the action.
Yep. Yeah, we can't ever assume again that.
I know, right? I know. We got so many subscribers now. I think we have 5 or 6 now already.
Really?
Yeah.
I haven't switched over my Amazon Prime subscription yet, but I'm going to.
Ooh. That'll put us at the top of the charts. Top of the charts.
You'll be sitting like a big-time producer with a fat cat cigar in your
turns to gold.
Oh my gosh, we have a
Hey, it's gonna be a hit.
Okay, so hello, secret viewers. Welcome to Arragas City of Dreams secret sidebar. Secret sidebar. So we have we are streaming tonight because there's some important things that we need to cover, and I was just going to sort of hand wave over it. On last week's episode, Stephen and Julie were absent for life reasons, and so their characters had sort of been on their own little adventures, and I was going to just sum it up this coming Wednesday. But I consulted my crack team of writers, and we decided that the things that happened to Vesper and Liliana need to actually be shown so that the audience can see what happens. So we are secret streaming on a Monday night. For those of you who are tuning in, thank you for being subscribers and having followed us. We hope that you enjoy the show. It won't be, or it shouldn't be, the standard 2-hour show. We just have some things to cover, and I thought it would be much better for if our audience could actually see what was going on.
We might even be able to replay this before the stream.
Yeah, depending on how long it takes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so the day is the third Luna Day of the Lover's Moon. It's the day before the Vigil, which is the holiday where all of Arragas celebrates, or rather remembers, the Battle of the Boneyard and everybody who fought during that 3-day battle. The day before, so the third Luna Day, which is today, the monstrous horde of orcs and goblins and manticores and giants and ogres and a big black dragon actually hit the Stone Cairn, which is a holy place for the elven druids of Arragas. And a lot of druids were slaughtered as the horde basically washed over the Stone Cairn. And they put up a very valiant defense, and probably more importantly, they were able to get some messengers away and hold off the horde long enough for the messengers to reach Arragas and warn people, which is probably why Arragas was able to mount such a quick response in defense of its own city walls. And so while the rest of the party is at Grimnir's theater, Liliana has gone to the remembrance ceremony at Stone Cairn, which all druids observe. So, in addition to this being a very solemn event, it's also like one of 3 times in a calendar year that all of the druids gather. So this is an opportunity for Liliana to see her peers and her companions and run into some old friends and speak with Ornthalos again about anything that might be on her mind. And I admit that this is I also have a secret agenda, which I shall reveal now. This is also a test to see if it's not actually MapCam. Hello, MapCam. It's not actually MapCam, that's the bad cam. It's bad, my computer being unable to run 4 cameras. So we have switched the camera that's normally on Ben and Amanda off, and we've turned on map cam, as you can see, and we are planning to run tonight with the cameras set up a different way, just to see what happens. So if we stop Twitch casting, please let us know in the chat, or as soon as we figure it out, we will be more than happy to restart tonight's broadcast. Okay, so let's get started. All right, so as you may remember from Wednesday night, last episode, the third Luna Day of the Lover's Moon was also the deadline that the street gang Thunderstone had given to Sable Guard in order to produce this mysterious murderer. And if they couldn't, they were supposed to meet Thunderstone at Grimnir's theater to sort of settle it once and for all with a very public melee, right? A fight, a duel, if you will. And so everyone has shown up there, with the exception of Liliana, who is out at Stone Cairn. Vesper opted not to fight in order to get into the stands and sort of build hype for Sable Guard, because he saw this as an excellent marketing opportunity, and he was very much right. And so he is in the stands, cheerleading and sort of, trying to draw people's attentions away from different fights and oh, look what Sable Guard has just done with, these hooligans. And, he's really trying to keep everybody's in his little section of the stand, focused on Sable Guard. He's using it like a showcase, like see how capable we are and see how much teamwork we have. He's also enjoying some deep fried critter. That's actually what it's called. Nobody will tell. They say that when people ask what type of critter, the response is that's proprietary. So it's part of their recipe, I guess. You think it might be rabbit, but you cannot like.
Oh, I just pictured like a lizard with a skewer down the.
No. It's like they're like little chunks of breaded meat, nuggets, if you will. And you
Mystery
can't.
Nuggets.
Yeah, it's just fried critter. It's just a little basket of fried critter. While you are watching, and sort of cheerleading and everything, you see some old people. Well, you don't see them. They don't catch your eye at first, but there's some elderly people in the stands. And the thing about Grimnir's theater is it sort of attracts all kinds, right? So from all walks of life, it's very inexpensive to get in. The fried critter is great. Everybody knows that. So it's not uncommon for young people, old people, rich, poor, dwarves, elves, humans, like all kinds of fans come to Grimnir's theater to watch, people engaging in different levels of blood sport. But you
Wait,
hear...
this isn't like a family establishment, is it? Is there?
There are kids in the stands.
Kids meal at the concession?
There are kids at the stands. I think there's a 1/2 fried critter basket.
Okay.
So
a value pack.
Yeah, if you will. So anyway, what actually catches your attention is you hear somebody mention Baron Vortigern. And when you turn around, it's like this old couple. They're dressed fairly nice. You would say that they're probably middle class citizens. They're not nobles, but they're maybe high up public officials or just wealthy people. And one of them says, the woman says yes, I'm sure that's Baron Vortigern. I've seen him, here and there. And the old man says, well, I don't know why he would, debase himself by coming to something as gruesome as this, but I guess, everybody needs to vent or whatever. So you immediately start scanning.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
You're just like,
where are they?
right? And after a little while, probably a couple minutes. I mean, it's a big theater, and there are tons of people in the stands. Hundreds of people in the stands. But after a little while, you do in fact see Baron Vortigern in the stands, and he's surrounded by clearly house guards. I mean, they're not armed in any way, but they're all wearing the uniform. They've all got the sort of the gray, the blue and the gold on, and he's just sitting in the middle, just observing these the proceedings, right? And that really, really surprises you because Versace has said, you need to come at me with some actual evidence. Like you don't have, you can't say things like I believe or I assume or it's widely rumored. Like he doesn't want, he wants information, not speculation.
Gotcha.
So you decide that you need to make an approach. So what I ask you is, are you going to sort of stealthily bleacher hop, and try to get closer? Are you going to just go up and say, hey, I saw you at the wedding, and mind if I have a seat? Or how is it that you plan to get close enough to him to?
Well, I think if I continue with the ramping up the crowd, getting everybody interested in the match, and just kind of everybody over here, over there, over there.
You're
Just start inching over there to his area.
All right, so you. Oh man, this throat thing is killing me. I'm not contagious, by the way. There's nothing contagious about this. My upper respiratory infection, I apparently strained my throat. So I feel a constant tickle, but there's nothing there. I'm not actually sick. And I've been told that it may take between 2 and 3 weeks for the tickle to go away, which is really annoying.
There's an obvious joke in here, but I shall not.
Don't make me laugh. Okay. So you begin working your way towards Baron Vortigern's section, if you will. And Grimnir's theater is not set up like rich people in the skybox, everybody else,
Yeah.
I mean, when you come in, it's just general seating, which probably explains why he's got so many of his house guard with him, so that they can form like an actual physical seating barrier around him so that people can't get in and sit right next to him. But you begin, working the crowd and moving through, and you get people here and there cheering for Sable Guard. Go ahead and roll a couple of performance checks for me, if you would.
Right.
If you would, please.
Let's see. It's gonna be 23.
Oh, very good.
Yeah, let's see. 13.
13. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So early on, you really you hit a pocket of people who are looking to be super fans, right? You guys feel it. You feel it on your skin, right? And so at one point, you actually have 80 people cheering "Sable Guard," say in unison, right? Everyone is clapping.
It's the 2 drink minimum.
And you're just
section.
yeah. It's the kids get in free with paid drunk adult section, right? So you get the crowd roaring, right? And of course people are watching, and you're watching too, right? You want to see how your friends are doing. And there's a few, there's lots of excitement and lots of dodging around and moving. There's one guy out there that's being really squirrely, he just keeps moving and he's doing this weird thing with his feet, but you're just whatever, Ariston will take care of that guy.
Right.
Upstarts are, right?
He'll bear trap him.
Yeah. Stand on that.
Run around now.
Unfortunately, by the time you sort of drag the spirit along, right? It starts to wane, and you try to get people doing the wave, and that's not, people don't really understand. Like some guys are actually waving at you, and like, do I know
good enough?
Yeah, yeah. And then by the time you get close enough to the Baron, to sort of catch him in the revelry, you see a messenger come up, a yellow cap. Right, so just a city messenger comes up, says something to a couple of the house guards, hands them a note. Without looking at it or anything, the house guard hands the note to Baron Vortigern. He opens it up and reads it. And then he stands up and, says something crisp, right? You can't really tell because the crowd is just going nuts, right? I mean, there's magic flying everywhere and people and blood spouting and all kinds of stuff. And two of his guards stand up, and they escort him over to the walkway, down the stairs, and into, sort of the vendor area, if you will, of the stadium, right, of Grimnir's theater, which is also incidentally where the restrooms are and a few other things, right? And so you don't catch him, you don't trap him in the audience, but now it's like, oh, awesome. Yeah. He has moved off, so now I can literally eavesdrop on him. So go ahead and... he doesn't notice you. He does not spot you in the crowd or anything like that. So when you move up through the crowd to go out the same little exit that he went out, you don't even have to worry about that. But when you get into the hallway, are you gonna try to like shadow him with like right by him, or are you just going to sort of stay back in the crowd and sort of weave through until you see where he's going? Like, how do you want to approach?
See, what's the most nonchalant thing to do? I guess I get shadow.
Okay. So go ahead and roll a stealth check for me, and I'm going to give you advantage because the crowd out here is so boisterous and so. What do I want to say?
Raucous.
So eclectic. Well, I mean, there's just so many different people and faces and clothing levels and stuff like that you can easily just jump from little tiny group to little tiny group, and you look like you totally fit in with each group. Like you just pop around.
Oh, natural 20.
Okay, good. All right, that's what I was hoping for. Okay, so you get to. You get to within about 15 feet of the Baron, right? And he is standing off to the side, right? So the crowd is sort of moving back and forth in front of him. And he's standing off to the side, and he's got his guards posted, one behind him and one behind the gentleman that he is talking to. And you can overhear him, right? But what interests you? Go ahead and make an intelligence check, and then make a perception check.
Okay. Oh, intelligence is terrible. But we didn't have to. We didn't. Oh my god. Dirty 20
Good.
on intelligence.
Okay, excellent.
And then let's see. What was the other one?
Perception. It'll be a wisdom.
Oh yeah, that's actually worse. Okay.
Why are you the spy?
15.
Oh, that's why you're the spy.
Yeah.
Okay, so you... okay, so first of all, you instantly recognize the other guy that he's talking to, right? And it's Ramiel Krupal. He is the guy who hired you first. He was your first, right? The guy who was like, I have a bunch of money. I need to go through a dangerous area of town. I need somebody to escort me, and if you escort me, I will pay you, for your time and efforts. And he was the very first job that your group
did we
took.
Helping the evil guy?
Well,
we're the originators of all this bullshit.
That thought does cross your mind. If you remember right, this is also the mission that brought you into Thunderstone's area of notice. Yeah.
Right.
Because Thunderstone is the one that confronted Ramiel and said, "You owe me a ton of money, and I want it now. I want you to pay it now." Okay. So Baron Vortigern is talking to Ramiel. You overhear him say something like, you overhear the Baron say, "We may have need of another one, possibly two." Mm. And Ramiel says, "As always, the orphanage stands ready to assist you."
How? He says the orphanage, so it's like,
yeah.
Do I have any idea?
There's no orphanage called the orphanage.
There's not like the orphan area for all your orphan needs.
The low-hanging crotch fruit. No.
We've got the dirty orphan. We've got the tall orphan.
And frog. No. So he says, as always, the orphanage stands ready to assist you. And Baron Vortigern seems satisfied with that answer. Okay, so you remember that the woman that you guys eventually took Ramiel to a woman's house who had a young baby, and Ramiel paid that woman a substantial amount of gold. Okay. And you also remember, because you rolled a dirty 20, I was going to make you hunt it out, but since you rolled a dirty 20, it turns out Vesper's got his mind like a steel trap.
When it comes to crowd work.
Yeah. You remember very clearly that she lived in an area of Arragas called Pinless Point. It's a little sort of a, it's not really what you would call a slum, but it's one of the areas that was hit fairly hard by through loss of life. So that area of Arragas wasn't attacked directly, but a lot of the fighting men that died were from Pinless Point. Okay. So there is now all of a sudden a lot of recuperation and poverty just plaguing that whole section of the city. Okay. And you're like, I mean, it's just like as soon as you see Ramiel's face, like it just all comes back to you, and you're like, oh, okay. So the Baron basically is finished. Ramiel does a curt little sort of a bow to him, kind of a deference to someone of a higher station. And he sort of wanders off. Baron Vortigern and his two bodyguards begin moving back towards you presumably to go back out to the stance. So do you want to follow the Baron, or do you want to follow Ramiel Kupal?
I think Ramiel's probably the
okay, so make another stealth check to get past the Baron. You'll have advantage. There's tons of people around.
Let's see. That's 18 and a edge. 18.
Way worse.
Way less. So
okay, so 18 total, or 18 is what you rolled?
18 is what I
rolled. Okay. All right, so you you managed to just sort of skirt around. You stop off at a concession stand and buy yourself another little basket of fried critters. The Baron moves past you. I mean, within touching distance, almost. But he does not seem to recognize you at all. Which doesn't surprise you, because when he saw you at the wedding, it was Pippi that he saw, not Vesper. Okay. Okay, so you spot Ramiel weaving through the crowd, and you begin following him. Okay. And eating your little critters and doing the shadowy thing. Okay. So make one more stealth check for being able to follow Ramiel.
At advantage or no?
Yes, at advantage. Yeah.
Okay.
You're still in the crowds. Yeah. There's tons of people in here.
Hey, there we go. 24 total.
Okay. You.
God, I'm just a spring Spring-heeled Jack in this one.
Yeah, you basically follow him out of the south entrance, and you see him begin trotting down the road. So you're assuming he's heading back to either his home or the orphanage, one of the two. Apparently, he runs an orphanage, which he didn't bring that up during when he hired you guys, and he seems really rich to be like. He clearly doesn't make money off the orphanage, so you don't know where he's getting his wealth from. Okay, so
selling the babies.
About that time, you feel a sharp pain in your side, right? I mean, just a really sharp pain, right? And you turn around, and basically, where's your little Vesper?
All the way to the left.
All these
All the way to the
elves,
left in the
all these
corner.
elves, yeah, all these elves look the same to me. All right, so let's put Vesper right there. Okay, so you're looking out the window, or looking out the hallway, and then you get stabbed. And when you turn around, there's one of Thunderstone's men is standing beside you, right? And then all of a sudden, you realize that you're actually Thunderstone's men are all over the place, right? And that sharp pain that you felt was the cut of a knife,
Okay.
right? A dagger.
Damn it.
And yeah, I'll get to that. I need to roll it. So anyway,
Will they grant me a last request?
they do not seem to be talking to you at all. Like they literally, like Caesar style, they swarmed you and they just start stabbing. Okay. So
I'd like to try and find some opportunities. Like, if somebody could please tell Thunderstone's grandmother to stop stabbing me, I would be very grateful.
All right. So the first guy that got you, he stabs you for 9. Okay.
Okay.
So then the second guy misses you somehow. You're completely surrounded, and he misses you. The third guy stabs you for 6. The fourth guy stabs you for 4. The fifth guy misses you. The sixth guy misses you. The seventh guy stabs you for 6. And Thunderstone.
I'm bloody, by the way.
Okay.
Just in case that. Then
Thunderstone steps up to you and stabs you right in the gut for 5. And says, "This is for Reaper." And he lets you go. So let's go ahead and roll initiatives, because that was the end of that surprise round.
Oh,
so go ahead and roll your initiative.
What if I'm
How much did you just
almost
do?
out? He did 30.
9, 30.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Out of my max of 32.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
This is Well,
You're like, we missed.
You're pretty
Oh,
well.
yeah,
Yeah.
I just
Imagine if the other 4 guys had hit.
Let's see.
You'd be dead now.
Let's see.
Dead.
21.
Okay. Well, all right. So you're gonna go first. Okay. So
20.
here's the situation. You're hurt real bad, and you are completely surrounded by Thunderstone's men and Thunderstone. Thunderstone is standing right in front of you.
Okay.
Right. I mean, and you know he's bigger and tougher, and surprisingly, he doesn't have that big, huge club that he normally carries around. But it's probably because he couldn't smuggle it in. The knives, they're all about that long, and everyone's got
how
one.
Cute.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. How quaint. Blood.
Don't
Okay,
take out
so-
your fancy cutlery on my behalf.
Yeah. So I will say that as of yet, no one in the crowd has noticed that you are being stabbed to death.
Okay.
You're standing right next to a concession stand where you just bought the critter bites. You're about 10 feet from an open doorway that leads out into, and I mean a portal, not a doorway. The gates have been opened so people can come in and out freely. So there's an open portal that leads out into the streets. On the other side of the concession stand is basically a sectioned off storage area for foodstuffs, right?
Okay.
And it's not a full wall, so you can see it comes up off the ground about this high, so you can actually see the flooring underneath the wall, and it doesn't attach all the way to the ceiling. So similar to a modern day stall, like a bathroom stall, where the panel is there, but it doesn't touch the floor and it doesn't actually touch the ceiling. Okay. So it looks like that, but made out of canvas and wood, right? Okay. And you can see like shit stacked on the other side of the canvas. And then of course there's crowd right here, dotted areas of openness. So
I can see outside or this back room or back kind of storage area.
Mm-hmm. And then every other open space is in the crowd. Okay. Like people moving past and stuff. Yeah. And just so you know, all of Thunderstone's men are pretty much going to stab you again if you are still up, if you're still standing. So that's your other option. You could crumple to the floor and play dead and hope that trust your performance to save you. No, God, I've been shot. Spa.
Like, this is just pathetic now. I don't even want to stab this guy.
Yeah.
It's terrible.
It's terrible.
We're not good people. So, let's say I misty step back into the storage area. Could I rely on being fully concealed?
You would be mostly concealed. Unless they suck. Okay, so Misty Step is a teleportation, so it's not like it leaves a trail or anything.
Yeah, I've just got to be able to see it, so it's like...
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, if you Misty Step, you will be behind a canvas partition. Okay. And unless these guys are really paying attention, they're not going to see where you went.
Okay. Yeah. I think I will Misty Step.
Okay.
Back into probably into a pickle barrel or critter trough.
Yeah, okay. All right, so you Misty Step, which of course instantly causes you to blink out of the middle. All right, so as you move forward, you know the spell works like you actually take a shortcut through the Feywild. Okay. So you very suddenly pop into the woods, right? And you can see like it's almost like a shadowy, dreamlike overlay, so you can see the point you're headed towards. But you're in the woods, right? And so it's like this weird, very surreal thing where there's a ring of guys behind you who don't belong in the woods, and there's just a standalone storage partition right in the middle of a couple of trees, and it does not belong in the woods, right? And as you go trotting through, you're holding some of your wounds, and you see all these like fireflies, but as you get close into the fireflies, you realize that they're tiny little people, like just the 1 inch tall people with wings, and they're all glowing, and they scream when you come running through, like holding your bloody wounds. Right, you just come running right through the middle of them.
Can I fist bump them?
No, they're not screaming like as in, oh, it's Justin Bieber. They're screaming as in like, oh my gosh, a bloody behemoth is running through. Yeah, smack.
Why don't they like me?
Yeah. All right, so you make it to the the partition. And then you feel, sort of like a rubber band or something snap, and all of a sudden you're standing in the middle of some barrels and some wooden crates, and you can hear the crowd again all of a sudden, and you can hear Thunderstone's men, emoting like, "What? Where did he go? What? The sorcery?" I'm gonna make some perception checks. They're not gonna. Okay. All right, so you hear Thunderstone say, spread out, he couldn't have made it that far. Look for the blood. Okay? Okay. And when you look back out through the partition, you can see that in actuality, there's quite a bit of your blood on the ground, right? Well, as soon as Thunderstone's men spread out to start looking, you can hear the crowd begin, like somebody screams and look at the blood, and you can hear the crowd beginning to react. And Thunderstone, you hear Thunderstone issue a second order that says, if we don't find him in a few seconds, let's just skin out. Right? So go ahead and make a stealth check with advantage, because you are literally behind a partition and behind some barrels. And
I mean, I can cast invisibility if I have the...
Well, that would certainly make it simpler.
Okay.
If you want to do that.
I'll cast invisibility.
Heal yourself first if you're going to. Because casting a spell breaks it, doesn't it?
Only if it's an offensive spell.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I think that's a DM's call thing, so...
Yeah, I would not say that casting a healing spell on yourself breaks your invisibility.
Good to know.
Because that would ruin like half of the utility of invisibility.
Well, invisibility is already like mostly ruined.
Yeah, they did a good job.
I'll do a healing word to
all in the same round.
cut my my bleeding.
Okay. It'll be die 4 plus your charisma.
Okay. Hey, 7.
Okay, so I'm going to make a new perception check. Oh wait, you can actually do both things, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can.
Yeah,
Because
okay.
it's bonus action.
Okay, so then you make invisibility. You turn invisible. You heal yourself, then you turn invisible. After just a few moments, you hear somebody saying, call Millipole, get somebody down here. Someone's been hurt, and you hear people start to run, and people are screaming, and did you see who it was? And someone was like, it was an elf that got stabbed. I don't know where he went, though. And did you see who did it? And all the standard things, right? After a little while, the pace calms down a little bit. You can concentrate on visibility for an hour, right?
Yeah.
Is it an hour or an hour per level?
It's just a straight hour.
Okay, all right. So after 10 minutes, they can't find any body. They can't find, no one's coming forward and saying, yeah, it was me that got stabbed. So it just sort of peters out. Like, honestly, like it just kind of, people just sort of, oh, that was horrible. They should really learn to keep it in the arena. That kind of thing.
Until
This used to be a classy joint.
Running around asking about it.
Right. Okay, so...
Why I didn't go outside.
Yeah, after like I said, after about 10 minutes, the coast is pretty much clear. The partition doesn't have a door or anything. It's like a kennel opening almost.
Yeah,
like you can just walk through and sort of L hook and you're in. So you can come out and
can I take a couple of crispy critter for my troubles?
surprisingly you still have some in your hand. They're a little crushed.
I need road critters.
You can. It may be
construed as
keep in mind that because you healed yourself for what, 7?
Yeah.
So that means you're still bloodied. So if you pop into the middle of the crowd, all covered in blood and knife wounds and stuff, people
and
are
2 fistfuls of crispy.
Give me some critters. Yeah. People may raise an alarm about that, and I mean a good alarm.
Invisible.
I know, but how's he gonna order crispy critter? Oh, you're just gonna steal some?
I was just gonna pocket some critters.
Sure. No,
okay.
No,
I thought you said there was a barrel of them.
I'll say, no. He has a little hand basket full.
No, I meant behind the.
Yeah, those are the uncooked critters.
Oh.
You want uncooked critter?
I didn't know they were uncooked.
Yeah, they're cooked.
Yeah,
fresh to order.
okay. Yeah, I'm alright.
They wouldn't be crispy critter if they weren't cooked fresh to order. They'd be soggy critter.
We don't know how it
I thought
works.
this was like
I
fair
mean, have you
food.
seen like at the ball fields what they do with those hot dogs? It's bad.
I please don't. I have partaken of hot dogs at the ballpark, and I do not wish to vomit on streaming TV right now. Okay, so without going into too much detail, you could make it back to Sable Guard and still be invisible the whole time, or you can try to continue to follow Ramiel. Let me think for a second. Your guys' plan was to come here, beat on Thunderstone, head back to Sable Guard. Okay. But now you don't know how that plan is affected. And also, it suddenly strikes you that this was the plan from a Thunderstone standpoint, like you're like, oh, that's why they said put your best fighters down in the pit so that he could take the rest of his gang and ambush whoever was watching in the stands. Oh. Okay. Okay, so you're like, oh, why didn't I see this coming? Okay. So where do you want to go?
Well,
You
depends.
want to go back to
Does Ramiel head in the same direction that Sable Guard?
No, Sable Guard is off to the east. Let me think for a second. Is off to the west, and Ramiel is heading south, which incidentally is not towards Pinless Point. Pinless Point is also farther west.
Okay.
So he's either going to his home or he's going to the orphanage, but he is not going in the direction of Thunderstone.
I think,
and it's actually kind of funny that Thunderstone didn't notice he was there because you were literally following him.
Right.
Thunderstone's stupid.
One track mind.
I think I've got a solid lead to follow up on.
Okay.
As far as the woman with the baby at Penless Point.
Mm-hmm.
So I will make my way back to Sable Guard.
Okay. All right. So you begin the journey back to Sable Guard, and you make it with little or no complications. When you get there, nobody's there. No one's there. There is. I'm trying to think. Yeah, you don't see anybody. You don't see anybody there. Which doesn't surprise you. It's the middle of the day, so people are probably out working. You know. Okay, so meanwhile, out at the Stone Cairn, Liliana is there. We'll put her out, and there's just a whole ton of druids just like milling around, and talking druid things, and you see people from like all different branches and all different age groups, and of course Orenthalos is right there with you.
Wait, this isn't like on Bambi when all the animals get together?
Kind of, yeah, kind of.
Journey of discovery.
Yeah, I'm sure there are a few animals walking around.
Of course, they're all blue and black like me. But...
Yeah. Oof. Barry showed up. God,
Yeah.
that guy.
Party animal.
Yeah. Go ahead and make a perception check, and actually make 2 perception checks for me. Make 2 perception checks.
All right. 2 separate perceptions.
Mm-hmm.
Hold on. My notes book. Has to go over there.
Well, I'm glad I didn't die. That was...
Oh, that one was real bad. Let's see. 8.
Okay.
And, oh God. 12.
You need to roll down there.
Okay, so you show up and you go around, saying hi to everyone and shaking hands and sort of doing your thing. And Orenthalos, I mean, you guys do the ceremony, which is an extremely solemn thing, and everybody stands in a circle according to the order of the stones. So at the Stone Cairn, it's sort of set up the way Stonehenge is, and each stone has like markings and runes on it that indicate each of the 12 branches. Mm-hmm. And so everyone sort of stands near their branch stone for the ceremony, and there's a bunch of remembrance, and you guys sing some songs, and you guys there's a water ceremony basically where you take water out of a well and then you pour it back into the well, and everybody sips from the well, and everybody that kind of thing. You do notice that the holly branch is actually one of the more underrepresented branches. There are only 3 of you there, including you and Orenthalos. Right? There's another younger girl there who is clearly like a neophyte. I mean, she's not even doesn't really travel out into the world or anything. She sort of stays at Stone Cairn and tends to things and is learning her way.
Island of misfit druids.
Yeah, so we'll put her.
She's got it. She's got a lazy eye.
It's not wrong, but...
And she's actually, well, no, I mean, she's like actually
got
like
a
a
limb.
child. Like she's, you know, she looks to be about the size of a 14-year-old or 12-year-old human girl.
Well, I was talking more about the Island of Misfit Druids, the Holy Branch.
Okay, yeah.
Kind of it.
And then of course there are others that are also lightly represented, Rowan and Willow and a couple of the others. But of course the big five, you know, they have the lion's share of all the druids, and the largest branch of course being Oak, because they are the leadership.
Yeah,
branch.
Gryffindor.
Yeah,
Those-
so
yeah,
everybody
those
wants,
assholes.
everybody wants to be in Oak.
Yeah.
And so there's a whole ton of them there, but you actually see, you know, after the ceremony, there's lots of time to sort of schmooze, right? Like you know, it's like a high school reunion or whatever. It's like an annual reunion, and you get together and you guys all talk about, oh, I saw this really amazing flower bloom in the middle of the night, and da 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 da, you know. And so you're kind of walking around and you see your childhood friend, Axel Oakseeker, there. And he is, he's big now. Like he is physically large for an elf now. And you don't remember him being that big before, but he's slightly taller than almost everyone. And he's muscly for an elf, right?
He's always been bigger.
Yeah, and
but not that big.
right, like he's always been on the big side, but now looking at him standing with other elves, you're like, wow, is he like actually physically bigger now than I remember? Anyway, he spots you, and when you go over to speak with him, this kind of a weird look passes over his face, like he is a little upset that you recognized him and are now moving towards him to talk to him. But you kind of ignore it, and when you get up there,
I definitely ignore it.
yeah, he's cordial, and you know he speaks with you, and you guys sort of do like all the druid small talk things, you know, like, oh, how many, you know, have you seen anything interesting in your travels? And oh yes, I saw, you know, 2 trees that had fallen together and now are forever standing upright because they lean on each other, and it's the strength of the roots and the trees and the leaves and the blah 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 hippy shit, right?
Log to log.
Yeah, log to log.
I was thinking
it was
more
hot.
along the lines of, despite the cordial atmosphere, Liliana is like, Axel!
Yeah.
And like Red Zeppelin's like, hi, how are you doing? It's been a while.
Yeah. The other druids sort of move away. You know, they give you some distance. So you and Axel are standing together and talking. Ornitholos is off talking to some of the other elders from the different branches. And you know, so everybody sort of moves away. And you guys begin talking, and you notice, like, every once in a while he keeps like almost like looking around to see if anyone is watching you guys talk. And at first you didn't notice anything, right, with your lower perception roll, but now it's starting to dawn on you, right? So you start looking around, and you start catching. I mean, it's very subtle, and it's almost like being snubbed or something at a dinner party, but you catch people like looking at you out of the side of their faces, and some people are like, when they see you, like they're looking at you, and when you look at them, they like whisper to each other and they say a few things, and one of them will like look at you and nod, and all of a sudden it dawns on you that people are that a lot of the druids are looking at you sort of askance, right? They're they may or may not be scandalized by your presence here. You don't really know. And Axel notices you notice. And so he sort of lowers his voice and he says, there have been some rather disturbing rumors circulating about you. And so I just think you know, as a friend, I just think you should lay low and sort of just watch out.
Are they sexy rumors?
No, they're not. They're not sexy rumors. They involve words like betrayal and traitor and corruption. And and when he says that last one, he's looking into your eyes, and you can tell he is trying to read your face. Like he's trying to see if that last little bit provokes you into giving something away.
Oh. I will lean forward and I say, don't believe everything you hear.
He says, well, I don't, because I know you very well. But just as a fair warning, I have to believe everything that I'm told by my elders. Go ahead and make a wisdom check. Let's make it an insight check if you've got proficiency in insight, then you get the proficiency bonus. Yeah. 21, very good. Okay, so you know that the oak branch is synonymous with strength, and it's one of the reasons that the leadership is usually comprised of persons from the oak branch. Not always. It's not a steadfast thing. It's not a hereditary title, but most leaders are from the oak branch. Okay. You also know, however, that so you know how elves believe that everybody gets reincarnated, and so when something dies, its soul doesn't die. Its soul just goes back into the infinite pool of life and then gets reincarnated as something else later. And so there's, from an elven religious standpoint, things dying isn't as tragic as the other races try to make it, you know? And there are some elves that, you know, really respect the sanctity of life, like you and a lot of the other Holly Branch elves. But there are some elves that don't really consider anything to be murder, right? Like if something dies, they just console themselves in that it'll come back, like it'll be back, and maybe next time it'll make better choices, or it'll make, you know, be stronger, or whatever.
Euthanasia?
Not really euthanasia, but more like pruning. More like the pruning of a plant. Like sometimes you got to clip off the weaker flowers, the weaker branches, so that the bush or the tree as a whole grows stronger and grows in the proper direction.
Well, yeah, under that philosophy, but what if one of them got paralyzed? Would they just...
Depending on their usefulness, their self-awareness of their usefulness to the druids. Do you mean an elf, or do you mean a druid specifically?
Oh, I was thinking druid. But
assisted suicide absolutely would be... Suicide would be not a problem. You know, there are lots of animals that when they become too old to be useful to the pack, they wander off into the woods alone and they die. And druids are no exception, right? Well, what you think Axel was trying to warn you about is that of all the branches, the oak branch has the least compunction about pruning the garden. Mm-hmm. So there may or may not have been a veiled threat in there. Oh, not from him, but a warning by him that hey, I have to listen to my elders, and so.
Well, I will say, for Liliana's sake, even though she's not going to act like it intentionally, given every concern that she has because of recently associating potential things with potentially with druids.
Mm-hmm.
She's watching very carefully and is actually looking to see who is giving her side eye, what branches they're from,
Mm-hmm. Okay.
and like who
So
they're talking with, all that sort of stuff. Like I'm trying to catch vibes off of everybody.
Okay. So you're basically making mental notes of who's whispering and who's got the courage to talk to you to your face and that kind of thing. Who's keeping their distance, both physically and
Exactly.
and
I'm not going
politically.
to act any different.
Sure.
And I'm going to continue to like be Liliana.
Okay.
But I will say she has full knowledge that she's intentionally acting that way.
Okay.
And intentionally not acting differently or changing her behavior because she wants to see how people react to her.
Okay.
I will also, like whenever I lean over and tell him don't believe everything you hear, I will slip into his hand a small moonstone.
Okay. He'll take it.
I tell him quietly, what will I say? I will say something like, I know you've made a lot of new friends lately.
He kind of smiles cynically.
And be like, you stay safe.
Okay.
And, move along.
Okay, so after a little while has passed, you notice that, well, there's a couple things that you notice. First of all, there is a huge carving of the Tree of Life over top of the pool that's in the center of Stone Cairn, right?
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead and make an intelligence check, because you start looking at it and you're like, you remember the symbol that you saw out in Scalebold, and so you're looking at it and you're trying to think like, what was different? Like you're trying to remember the one in Scalebold, and you're trying to.
What is it? And just straight intelligence?
It'll be intelligence. Let's give you history.
5.
No. Okay, 5. Okay.
7 if it's Arcana or Nature.
Okay. All right. So you are you're just like looking at the carving, and you feel like the difference is right there. Like it's like if it were a snake, it would bite you, and you feel like you're like right on the cusp of figuring it out, and then you think of something, but you can't remember whether or not you're not relying on your memory very well, right? So you're like, hey, wait a second, did the other carving, and you kind of let that trail off.
That's the thing, I can't remember the exact
Right.
configuration of the original carving that I'm worried about.
Right. Yeah, and that's the thing. So you decide that you think you know what the difference is, but before you say anything, you want to double check the carving out in Scalebold to make sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so you decide, I need to get back out to that stone carving.
Yes.
And examine it, because now I think I know.
Should have let me make a rubbing.
Yeah.
Burned it.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, that's right. It was poor quality.
Yeah.
This next one.
That's right, I did.
Yeah.
And yet I never detected magic on it.
That's right. Well, you probably didn't need to. You would have just been able to feel it.
Well, yeah.
That's how powerful it was.
But I had to
Yeah, no, that's.
it done.
I remember we had that conversation.
It's fine. It wasn't. I feel like I was, taken over by somebody else.
Yes.
There's somebody else inside my head that day.
Yes. We call him the clot. It's like a brain clot.
It's all good.
Okay, so your revelry, or rather your daydreaming, gets interrupted because you hear one of the other elders say, Ornitholos, this is ill-advised. And he says it very loudly. And so you look around, and Ornitholos is actually walking towards you, right? And when he gets to you, Axel sort of makes his exit. Ornitholos gets to you and says, in a very low voice, he says, we may have just entered the most dangerous time of your life. I need to be able to trust you with something. And
is there anybody else around?
Yeah, there's a whole bunch. I mean, they're not around. They're not like watching you guys, but there are tons of druids. I mean, there's probably 30 or 40 druids in total here if you count all the animals and everything.
Should we talk about this here then?
He says no. We'll talk about it another time. And then he raises his hands and calls for silence. And
before he does that, I'll be like, danger's my middle name.
Yeah. He calls for silence and raises his hands, and he says, I have an announcement to make. Please listen to me. This decree is important. And he says that what does he say? He says, I must go on a journey. It is a long and dangerous one, and I am the only one qualified to make this journey. And I thought that I had more time, but I realize now that I do not have enough time. So I must leave right away. I am hereby naming Liliana Hollywisp as my acting regent of the Holly branch. She will represent the Holly branch in all things until my return. And as a token of her new office, I give her my staff, which she will wield and speak for me. And he basically hands his staff over to you. You've never even touched the staff, right? Like,
yeah.
It's like this. It's like a tree kind of a thing. It's very knobby.
Right.
The idea is that remember when I told you that there are special trees that still grow in the world? Mm-hmm. Each head of the branch of a branch has one of these staves, and they are carved from the wood of a special tree. So there are literally only 12 of these staves in existence. They are passed down from head of the branch to head of the branch to head of the branch. So he has basically just said, hey, I know you elected me president of the United States just a few weeks ago, but I got to go someplace, so I'm naming Julie as the president until I get back.
Yeah.
Here's the keys to the Air Force One. Right? And he basically hands you the staff. And I mean,
prepare for a nosebleed,
yeah,
or
people,
some kind of mind.
I'm just
people like you take the staff, and people are openly offended by it, right? I mean, like even druids who are younger, not necessarily the elders, are like, what? Wait, what? She's too young. She doesn't have the right to wield that kind of authority. Just the whole place erupts, right? And Ornitholos holds his hands up and calls everyone to order. And he says, as head of the Holly branch, it is within my purview to make this decision, and my decision is final. I expect everyone to treat Liliana Hollywisp with the respect that is due her station. And then he motions to the young girl, the other Holly Branch girl, mm-hmm. and she comes over, and he says, I bid you all farewell, and we shall return as fast as is possible. And she turns herself into a ferret, and he turns himself into a hawk, and he picks her up, and they fly off.
Safe travels.
Ornitholos. I can't even say his name.
Ornitholos. Yeah, you had it right.
Ornitholos. Out.
Yeah.
No,
He holds out a tiny wand, drops it on.
And I'm
Okay, so he leaves, and you are standing in the middle of like 35 other druids who are literally all staring at you in disbelief. And as you scan the faces, some of it is shock, but some of it is offense, right? Some people are looking at you like she does not, like just her holding that staff fills me with rage, and I want to turn into a bear and maul her to death, right? I mean, you can read it, like as you're scanning the faces, and you suddenly become very, very self-conscious about the fact that you are now in charge. I mean, you basically represent, you are all of Holly Branch. The other two druids have just left. So you're it. You look at the staff, or the staff that you're holding, and it sort of goes up and hooks into like a half, like almost like a crescent moon, where the branch was taken from the tree. There's holly growing all around it and all through it. There's little holly berries on it.
I'm like holding my little
and there's
pendant from my mom.
yeah. And there's a little golden bell hanging inside the crescent moon, like it's a little. So like when you shake the staff just a tiny bit, it jingles ever so lightly.
Yeah, and my staff I already like put in my bag, like it's strapped across my back now.
Yeah. Needless to say, the party is now over. And some people begin leaving. Like some people aren't even waiting for the official, like, hey, this official meeting is over, go in peace. And I mean, some people are turning into animals and running off, and some people are just teleporting away and like opening up doors in trees and walking through them and slamming them on their way out.
I'm just watching around me.
Yeah, Axel walks up to you and says, I told you to lay low. And then you see this other guy.
That's where
not bad for a traitor.
Yeah, this other elf basically goes Axel, right? And when he says it, there is a bear growl that comes out. And Axel looks over at the guy, and the elf turns into this huge Kodiak bear, right? And then he runs off into the woods, and Axel looks at you, turns into a brown bear, and runs off after his elder.
Yeah. During that exchange, I will have probably looked at the Axel guy and raised an eyebrow when he turns into a Kodiak, and then when I look at Axel, I'm like, go ahead.
Yeah. Yeah, and you'll recognize. I mean, you know all the heads of all of the branches. That was the head of Oak Branch, and Oak Branch is also.
And I'm not totally shaking in my boots. I'm trying my best to be like, anybody gonna try something?
Yeah.
I got this awesome
Let me
staff.
look magnificent for a second.
Yeah.
I'm just standing as still as possible watching everybody. And I'm like, I'm gonna slam this shit on the ground and do something crazy if anybody comes after me because I'm scared.
I would say probably 1/3 of the people. You're not sensing any malevolence from them, but they are truly flabbergasted. It's like watching a surprise video where somebody turns out to be a celebrity that was shopping in a Walmart or whatever, and everyone's just like, right?
Ornitholos likes his surprises.
Ornitholos has been Ornitholos has been different since you confessed certain things to him. you get the feeling that this is part of that.
Yeah.
And you should probably keep
an eye out.
anything. Yeah. Well, you should also keep things close to the vest with regards to other druids. And anyways, so you head back. I mean, you head back to Arragas. They're closing down the ceremony, and not even really officially. And druids, the few druids that are still hanging around, you get the feeling that they're hanging around so that they can gossip about what they just, like, what is happening, what does this mean.
I was going to ask, is this like an annual ritual celebration?
Yeah.
It's the day. It's basically
not the bi-weekly tag up.
No, this is
No.
the
Team
annual
building exercise.
vigil for the Battle of the Boneyard.
Okay.
right.
Okay.
So the way the battle happened is Arragas is here, and Stone Cairn is this little tiny holy land right here, and the mountains are all across the north. So when the orcs and everybody came flooding down, they passed over, like, imagine like a tidal wave passing over a tiny island in the...
that's where it is.
Great, but you're blocking my face. People tune in for this.
Sorry.
Imagine a tidal wave crashing over a tiny island before hitting the mainland. Right? So Stone Cairn is the tiny island. And they were able to hold off the tidal wave long enough to get messengers to Arragas to say, hey, everyone, you have about 3 hours. And then this huge, monstrous force of orcs and everything is going to slam into your city. And Arragas was... I mean, I don't want to say Arragas was saved, but thousands of lives were saved because of the hundreds of lives that were lost at Stone Cairn.
Yeah.
So the druids saw that as a fair trade, right? Like, we lose 100, but we saved thousands. Mm-hmm. They're fine with that. In the big circle of infinite life, that's a perfectly legitimate exchange, right? Mm-hmm. So every year they have a ceremony
job to protect against chaos.
right?
Camp speed bump.
Right. So every year they have a ceremony, which is literally the day before the vigil, which is the big 3-day holiday where the city celebrate or remembers the 3-day battle of the Boneyard.
Oh, I do want to say before I leave, I'm guessing that each of the branches or whatever has their, like, thingies set up, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'll
You mean on the stones?
Yeah, whether it's the stones or the trees or whatever, I will like go over and make a portrait of my mom.
Okay.
On the stone before I leave.
Okay. All right. So you use stone shape to put the likeness of your mother onto the holly branch stone.
Like wherever we would have like little remembrance things.
Oh yeah, all over the place. Yeah, people don't even really. I mean, people plant things and people cause little sproutlings to grow and all kinds of neat druid things to remember. Okay, so then you head back to Arragas, and that's pretty much it. That's what happened to you guys whilst things were popping off at Grimnir's theater. Mm-hmm. This Wednesday everybody will be back together and we'll move forward with the story from there.
Yeah, because they tore off towards Thunderstone's keep or whatever.
Yes,
and I'm
the rest of the party.
Actually, I'm at Sable Guard.
Well,
you did warn. You're like, you could just be sitting back there right now.
They sent Macaria back, didn't they, to check on?
Oh, maybe
they sent one person back.
Okay, well,
you guys.
The guard.
Okay.
Well, we know what went on, but Vesper has no idea whether he has arrived before or after your teammates from Sable Guard arrived and then stormed out.
Yeah.
So, but you are still invisible, and you are at Sable Guard right now, and we'll move forward from there. Okay, so thanks everybody for tuning in. Again, this was just sort of a little supplemental show. We won't be doing too many more of these in the future, I hope. But we really needed to see. We needed you guys to be able to see what was going on, and I didn't want to just take up the first section of the show, just sort of describing all of this. I like to role play this stuff out. So
we'll see if we can replay it before the episode on Wednesday.
Yeah.
Like as like a pre.
Yeah, we'll see if we can set that up. I will definitely have it on YouTube, on our YouTube channel, the morning of Wednesday. So if anything, you guys can pick it up there. And since it is our most recent stream, it is also available to watch on Twitch. So if you just go to our video section, the last video will be this one. Okay, so thanks everybody for showing up, and it was a successful map cam test, which really makes me mad, but I'll keep working on that. So thanks everyone, have a good night, and Mom, if you're still watching, I'll see you later.
Bye, Dusty.